convene the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for February 11th, 2016. We'll start by rising for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the approval of the agenda. I think we do have one correction, right?
Mayor, if we could delete item 6A, ordinances on first reading regarding rezoning. That item, they've asked to defer that at this time.
Right. Next item is the mayor's report and
Approval.
Did approval on that.
oh. So
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the ordinance under first reading. 16-03 is being deferred.
A second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll move to mayor's report, and we have the honor of swearing in a new judge tonight, and that will be done by Honorable Chuck Cerny, Judge of the Knox County General Sessions Court. You guys come on down here.
Thank you for having us. That's perfect. It's my privilege to administer the oath of office to my friend, Keith Alley. All right, please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible, and repeat after me. I, Keith Alley, do solemnly swear or affirm that I possess all of the qualifications of the office of municipal judge as prescribed by the charter of the town of Farragut, and that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States, that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the state of Tennessee, that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the town of Farragut, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of municipal judge. Congratulations. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Citizens Forum. Do we do this now, or?
No, we'll do the citizen comments for that item. I'm just going to make sure that there's no, it's for nothing on the, yes, everything is for the Farragut Business Alliance item.
All right. So we'll move to approval of minutes for January 28th, 2016.
I was absent, so I'll abstain.
I'll move for approval of the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we're skipping the ordinances, and so we go to the business items, and this is the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the town of Farragut and the Farragut Business Alliance.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll go ahead and get this started. Will be brief since we talked about this quite a bit at the workshop. But the FBA was formed in 2009 as a nonprofit 501c6 organization whose primary mission is to help promote business in the town of Farragut. And since that time, the FBA has held several community events such as Red, White, and Blues, Farragut Food Festival, Light the Park, and various events during the Dogwood Arts Festival time. They've also been leading the marketing of the Shop Farragut campaign during the holiday shopping season. The attached MOU outlines several economic development initiatives the FBA will be responsible to provide for the town and the businesses located here under Exhibit A, Program of Work. And their program of work will include promoting Farragut's businesses, retaining existing business, recruiting new business to the town, and continuing to enhance the special events they have coordinated over the past 5 years. The key aspect of this agreement, too, is that with the metrics that are involved and everything else, the board has the ability to terminate this agreement at any time during the term if you feel that the aspects of the agreement are not being fulfilled. The three main enhancements to this MOU that are proposed that are different from the original executed agreement in 2011 include the FBA proposing to expand Shop Farragut from just a holiday program to a full year-round program. Second, in order to enhance the special events, the FBA is proposing to hire a part-time special events coordinator that will focus solely on the events, which would subsequently free up the executive director to fulfill the remaining portion of the agreement. And finally, the completion of the town's branding program last year, the FBA would be responsible for promoting the town brand to not only businesses and citizens in the community, but those visiting and deciding to shop in Farragut. Due to those additional responsibilities, the FBA is requesting an increase in funding from the town to $185,000 for the first year and $200,000 for each additional, for the second and for the third year. Their proposed budget would utilize these additional funds, and all of that information is attached in your report, as we just discussed a little while ago. Alternatively, if the board elects not to fund the FBA at that level, then they're requesting funding of approximately $75,000 a year to continue the current services that they are providing to the town based on all those special events and the things that I just mentioned. The Farragut Economic Development Committee voted to recommend approval of this MOU between the town of Farragut and the FBA just last week. 3 in favor, 1 opposed, with 4 abstentions, and that's a rather odd vote because I've never had that happen in 16 years I've been doing this. In the 16 years I've been doing this, where you had 4 abstentions, so in those situations, I've got to go to a higher authority than me and contact a parliamentarian with MTAS who indeed did let me know that that is a proper vote for with the 3 in favor and 1 opposed, since basically all 8 people were there and had the opportunity to vote if they so chose. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions, and I know Mr. Purvis is here from the FBA to answer any questions as well.
Does this fully fund the festivals,
Fully fund what, Mayor? I'm sorry?
or the festivals?
I believe so, yes, sir. I'd have to ask Mr. Purvis that, but it should cover all the festivals and all the special events that they have been doing over the last 5 years.
It covers all activities that we currently perform, plus the addition of the new branding activities.
All right, thanks.
All right. I'm David Purvis, 605 Werndl, Fox Run Subdivision, also president of FBA. Sorry y'all have to hear that again, but apparently we have to repeat some things because some people may be tuning in on TV. So we're not going to go into the detail that we went into a few minutes ago because it's rather extensive. Just want to restate that Farragut Business Alliance was an informal group of businesses that got together to work on ordinances and to discuss business issues within town. We ultimately ended up filing for a 501c6 status. Operate with a board of directors under a standing set of bylaws, compliant with all state and federal guidelines, IRS guidelines, so forth. We've been involved in numerous activities within town. Here again, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because I think there's a line of people who want to talk. So in the sake of time, unless somebody else has anything else, I'll try to keep it brief. I'll go ahead and wrap up. Everybody here has heard it. I know a couple people came in a little bit late, but I want to make sure you understand, we're not asking you to give money to us. We're asking that you invest money in the future of the town and trying to build the tax base. We've got numerous infrastructure projects coming up that are expensive, and we don't have any more federal or state funding to help us with it. We've got to continue to raise money to continue to improve the roads, make improvements, and maintain them. So we're relying upon sales tax dollars and other fees related to business. So we need to drive more traffic in, and that's what this program is supposed to do, drive more traffic, meaning more people to buy product and things in Farragut so we can capture the sales tax dollars. So this is an investment in the town's future, not in the businesses themselves. Yeah, the businesses will benefit, but also so will the town, so will the residents, because it'll help keep us from having to implement a property tax. It's an insurance policy to help us grow that base. One thing that somebody noted too, we have gone through a revision of our mission statement. It came up in several meetings that somebody wanted us to probably look at it, and we committed to look at it once we got through this process. But we went ahead and visited that and had a board meeting the other day, and we modified the mission statement. We removed the advocacy component of that. We are committed to not taking a formal position on any issues. If requested, we will provide information to Mayor and Alderman and the community as a whole on where the businesses may stand on the issue as we go forward. But with that, I'll leave it to you because we got into a lot of detail a little while ago. Any questions of me? First time I ever heard you not ask some questions. Or not heard you.
I want to compliment you all on what you've done in the past. The FBA's done a great job. A lot of areas, just a couple that I want to comment on is the FBA's done as far as engagement in the coordinating and promoting of the special events in the town. Red, White, and Blue Festival, Farragut Food Festival, Light the Park, Art in the Park. Those events have brought a lot of joy to the citizens, and the town has increased its community spirit tremendously. So I want to thank you for that. Those events have been wonderful.
Thank you.
David, I'd like to second what Alderman Pinchuk said. Obviously, there's been a lot of hard work done here over a long period of time, and I think we're moving in a good direction. But a couple of things that I see that are missing here, we say we want to increase our tax base, but there doesn't seem to be any metric in here for measuring that. I see a lot of activities. I see a lot of measurable activities, but I don't see any measurement of that one all-important one, why we're doing this, and how we measure success in that particular and all-important arena.
Well, in discussions with everybody and going to outside organizations and towns and asking them, how do you measure that? And nobody has a good way to measure it because, if the tax base increases, regardless of what's going on, because the economy grows. Maybe the tax base declines because the economy goes into a recession. What are attributable to what growth or contractions attributable to our actions? So what we're trying to do is find some metrics that sort of frame that around it, and it's implied that if we get more sales tax dollars, that's good. If it goes down, that's bad. But we aren't sure how to measure that increase. I mean, we want it to increase, but can we say our objective is to probably get a tenfold return on this, but how much of that return is because of our actions? I mean, we're open to any discussion, any metrics with that, but it's a difficult one to put your finger on.
Well, obviously it is, but it's like being in the car business and having a whole lot of activities, but if you don't that are supposed to increase sales, but if you don't increase sales, you're doing a whole lot of activities, but what are you accomplishing? So I think that's something that to me, we have some work to do there. And then the second thing is, we say we want to grow our tax base. We want to increase tax revenues, which is fine. But we're operating with a budget surplus right now. What are we going to do with that additional money? And I've got some pretty good ideas of what we should do. I think everybody does. But I think before we set about on a major investment to increase our tax revenues, we need to figure out what we're going to do with that money and not just grow a big pot there. So
That's sort of beyond my scope in this project.
Right. I understand that. Okay, I yield the floor.
I've got a question. Did North Star, when they asked us to implement the brand, give us any metrics or give us any ideas on how we could measure what our marketing and advertising would do?
I don't know if they really gave us any metrics to measure that. They said they would come back and look at our performance in about a year. They will come back and do that for us to see where we're at with our brand implementation and how far we've gotten. But they didn't have specific items per se. They were saying you should do this and you should do that and you should yield X amount more by doing those things. It was really a conglomeration of, like I said earlier, 15 different ideas that they had in order to implement that brand, which would then help promote it throughout the community and beyond.
And like I said, yeah, we're more than open to adding whatever language you'd like to add about the sales tax growth. I mean, it's a good measure, but here again, not everything, the growth of that would be attributable to our actions necessarily, or the decline. You know, we may lose a major business, we may gain a major business that drives that. You know, if you got a Lowe's or something, that would probably drive our sales tax dollars up significantly, and particularly from outside revenues.
Yeah, I would consider that to be a very specific and measurable outcome that we could say would be highly beneficial.
I have no doubt that if the sales tax dollars go down, that our budget would be whacked, because if your surplus diminishes, then it'll likely happen to us as well.
Well, I think, you know, it's really a great experience for me to, when, as Alderman Honkin was leaving, we had an opportunity to interview a number of very highly qualified candidates. And I heard a lot of really good ideas from some of those people. And one of them was that we don't have a major appliance store in town. We don't have an auto dealer in town. We don't have a motorcycle or RV dealer in town. We don't have a building supply store like a Lowe's, you know, major big box building supply. And that we need to target these. And I think one very specific metric that I would like to see included in this is some marching orders as to what we're trying to recruit. You know, we want one of these, one of these, and one of these, and we would consider it a very great success if we were able to achieve that through the expenditure of these funds.
I want to reiterate something we discussed a little bit earlier. We're going to be part of the economic development. We're not going to be the sole economic development activity. David and Gary have focused on major development, major big box stuff through the ICSC and getting out in front of them. I have been involved in that, and they're in front of all of those things and meeting with them. It takes a long period of time to land some of those. We're on the radar. Apparently, Farragut's on the radar with a lot of organizations. Our goal is to retain the businesses we have, mentor them through any difficulties, mentor them through opening a business here, and hopefully as we get participation back in from all the stakeholders, being other businesses, residents and so forth, that we can go and find other businesses that are more local that we can reach out to try to solicit them to come into Farragut as an addition to our community. So big box stuff is still going to be in their hands. On the major stuff, we're going to try to keep the businesses here and get in some more small businesses, try to fill up some of these empty spots we have.
Yeah, we do, Alderman. We do work a lot on national retailers, you know, at that level, as you've been out there and know how that all works. But, you know, certainly trying to target certain industries and certain retailers has been something we've been working on for the last few years. But any ideas that you have, we certainly would be glad to try to see if those fit and if we can go after those ideas as well.
Well, I have heard from a lot of my constituents on the south side, and I think it's the amount of money, the $600,000 that's been listed in the paper. I think this is what really overwhelms us. That we're thinking, why does our town want to spend that kind of money? I personally would like to see maybe, I think the FBA's done a great thing for our town. It's brought a lot of people together, made the spirit better. They have helped businesses and all. And I'm really in favor of you continuing, but possibly not at this amount, and possibly maybe a year. Let's go a year, and let's see what you could do in 1 year with a certain amount of money. I just think there's just too many people on my side that oppose it, and I think it's the large amount of money at one time. I know you're not going to be receiving all that money at one time. It's going to be distributed at quarterly, but I just think let's give you a year with the amount of money you think it would take for a year, and let's see what you can achieve.
Well, and like I said, the contract saying it's $600,000, it could be $100,000 because you all have the power to cut it or do whatever with this contract. It's up to you. You have the power to make the decision to do it, or to cut it, or to cut the whole deal, or to increase if you thought it was effective. So we're out here. We were asked to present some facts and some information, and that's what we're trying to do. And I hear again, what we went for was try to find an effective program.
I've heard from a lot of constituents as well, and I guess I'm kind of trying to figure out, is it the amount, or is it the fact that the citizens don't want to give the FBA control of that amount? And maybe an answer to this is we need to implement the branding. It's going to take money. We've looked at what it would cost if we staffed it ourselves, and the amount is probably pretty close to being the same. So maybe the answer might be that the FBA implements the program, but the funding stays within the town, and town staff approves the funding for brochures or TV advertising or whatever, and it's paid by the town and not by the FBA.
I think that's a good idea.
I don't know.
To us, that's a minor change. I mean, to be honest with you, as we went forward, we were going to submit what we were doing before we committed the dollars. We would be coming back asking for approval anyway. We wanted to make sure we were transparent and say, okay, here's what we're looking to spend over the next 30 days, whatever the time frame may be, because we're looking to implement a newspaper ad or this, that, and the other, and bring that back and attach that to a request for funding of those. And that difference, the only difference is it was going to go through our bank account or it's going to go through your bank account. It's the same thing. As long, it's the same process. We can manage it the same way we were, and the town can cut the check to pay for it. I mean, it's effectively the same process to me.
Alderman Pinchot, just so I understand what you're proposing, is that basically we would take that $140,000 line item for advertising and take it out of the proposal, out of the contract for the FBA. So that would run that number then down to, for the first year, $45,000 for the FBA contract. Then we would do any kind of RFPs that we need to do through the town's processes and advertising to the town. I guess the main thing we would need to make sure of is that Ms. Sousa is willing to help out with that process, because again, even though we're doing it through our town internally, still the staff time and everything else to make that program work, it's going to take extra, and she's definitely got the expertise to do that. But if she's willing to do it, we can definitely make that happen from a openness, and that way everybody can see everything that's coming through us all the time.
Well, I think it's something we need to look at. Maybe we need to hear from the citizens and see what their thoughts on that. But
No other questions for me?
No, but thank you, David.
Thank you. Appreciate
thank you,
it.
David.
Thank you, David.
Our first speaker is David Freeman, and speakers are limited to 5 minutes, please.
And if everyone will just state your name and address for the record, we appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm Dave Freeman at 12037 Broadwood Drive in Farragut. And I am speaking as a citizen. I don't represent any group, or I don't have anybody behind me here. And my concern is that when I moved here, the town was, I thought, the great place. It was a small town, had limited government. They didn't spend a lot of money, and things have grown. And we seem to spend money, in my opinion, on items that are not giving us a return. My opinion, and opinions of many of the people I talk to in town, is that this branding is the biggest waste of money that's ever occurred. And the brand itself is lame. And I don't know how many other people feel like that. I read that and it makes no sense to me, and all the people I socialize with, it makes no sense. It means nothing. We've only spent $35,000 doing that. And I think if we spend $200,000 a year promoting this brand, it is just a shame. We should think about going back to North Star and asking them to give us something that means more than what this is. And I object to the brand. I'm embarrassed by it, and spending $600,000 to promote this brand, which is lame as I can see, is a waste of money. And then I'm out on shoveling snow one day, and a lady comes by saying, "How many people live in your house?" I said, "Why do you want to know that?" "Well, we're trying to get more money from the state by taking a spatial census and spending money to get a spatial census." So if we're so tight of money, and I hear Mr. Smoke constantly refer to a property tax, we may have to have a property tax. So I don't know that we have the money to spend promoting this brand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is Carl Christofferson. Carol, I'm sorry. It looked like.
And I apologize. I got out of my sick bed to come down here. I'm going to read something that is, I think, very apropos of what's going on here. It's called, hold on here, cronyism. It is crony capitalism. It's a term describing an economy in which success in business depends on close relationships between business people and government officials. It may be exhibited by favoritism in the distribution of legal permits, government grants, special tax breaks, or other forms of government intervention. Now, that's what we're talking about right now is classic cronyism. This body of our government, for Farragut, should not be involved in private business actions. I am all for growth in this town. I moved away 45 years ago. I've come back, having lived in some of the most corrupt states in the country. I won't mention them. I have been president of 3 separate homeowners associations, 2 of whom were multi-million-dollar home associations, and I am now president of the Sweetbriar Homeowners Association. I know of which I speak. This board of mayor and aldermen should not be involved in this process. The business people in Farragut need to be promoting themselves, not the government. $200,000 from this body, when you cannot even yourselves get a measure of whether it's successful or not, is appalling. And it's giving money to an organization that has been less than stellar in its success since it was started. Now, I am not demeaning the beautiful park lights that went up. They're gorgeous. They're first class. And the other events. But those are not promoting business in this town. If you'll read the charter of this town, it is a small, rural, residential community. And I am appalled that out of the mouths of these aldermen tonight, you all are talking about the possibility of bringing in big RV sales companies. It's just not what Farragut is supposed to be. And we need to get back to being a very, very classy, small residential area. I'd like to know what we're going to be doing with our budget surplus, and I'm really glad to hear that. Nobody else in the area has Turkey Creek that brings in such huge tax. And I'd like to know when the citizens of this town are going to start seeing real progress with what the town provides us. Like, God forbid, street cleaning, a city-sponsored rural metro group. How about the city starts paying for recycling? Anyway, I agree with every comment that was made against this partnership. That's in the 2 newspaper articles that I just read the last few days. I'm not going to go into it. You already know what's in there. And my final point is, and I understand this is an issue, there are at least 2 aldermen on this board, there may be more, I only know of 2, who have a direct conflict of interest with this organization. You cannot vote for this tonight. You can't vote for it. You must recuse yourselves. It's not a matter of choice. Anybody remembering their 8th grade physics class, conflict of interest requires that you recuse yourselves.
Our third speaker is Harry Moscos.
I'm Harry Moscos, 405 East Fox Den Drive. I want to talk about one thing that, make the first comment on the town manager when he read the report that several years ago. I think the thing that soured the Business Alliance on a lot of tax-paying residents is there was no mention in that report about the need to rezone residential property to high-density apartments. I think that shows a conflict of interest. And you mentioned, and I asked you at the meeting this week, when you changed and eliminated the word advocacy, I said, does that mean you will not be pushing zoning changes? And you answered no. It did not mean that. Yes, you did. You just said.
I just stood up there and just said.
No, but not at that meeting you didn't. You said, no, it does not mean we won't argue for zoning changes. Question is, how much is your annual budget and what is the source of that money? How much comes from your FBA members?
Out of a budget of about 87,000 last year, I think 37,000 came from the town, the rest came from sponsorships.
So the town is supporting this organization. I have a problem with that. Is there a financial accounting given to the town every year on how that money is spent?
Yes.
I just think that as I said, the conflict of interest, you said many points I was going to bring up, that this seems an issue of the business community that should be undertaking itself, not the citizens. Yes, they pay taxes, sales taxes, but that sales tax comes from the residents who shop at their stores. And we shop almost exclusively in Farragut. And you're right, the people love the restaurants in Turkey Creek. I just think that this plan just does not sound logical, that you're going to have movie commercials at the Regal Cinema in Farragut, and all of a sudden, that's going to attract new businesses to our community. I'm just against this plan, and I'm also concerned about the conflict of interest. You got 2 council members plus 2 other city officials are at all the meetings of the FBA, and as it was pointed out, the 200,000 to 237, that's the same ballpark. if the town wants to advocate attracting new businesses, they should do it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christy Holsey.
Christy Holsey, 11724 Weather Vane Drive. I come before you this evening as a resident. You've seen me before as a board member for Village Green, but today I am here, as the gentleman said before, with nobody behind me. I guess coming into this and sitting through the workshop or the meeting that the FB had earlier this week and trying to grasp all of this understanding, it seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions, to be honest with you. A lot of things that are going back and forth. The biggest one would be to Mr. Purvis. I sat in that meeting, and if there was a videotape and we could replay it, the understanding that I had sitting in that meeting when you took out the word advocacy was that you would not advocate for high density or advocate or petition the board for things of that nature. That was my understanding. Are you now saying that, no, that's not the case, that you will, if the opportunity comes, stand up here as your group has done before and advocate for high density apartments, more, the change of the character of our town?
No, what I just said a minute ago, I said, if the mayor and alderman ask us to find out what the business community thinks about something, we'll provide that to them, that information, but we won't take a formal stand on any of those issues.
Okay, so it'll come from your business people. Will it come in the same manner as it did the last time?
Last time we took a position because we felt like the businesses had requested us to do that, and we did as an organization. But going forward, the way we would work would be, if we're asked to give the information, we'll give it. We'll ask the businesses what they think. We'll give it to them. Like we did last time we did the survey, we gave all the results, good, bad, or indifferent.
You did.
And the only difference was that we took a position, and we tried to explain that position to the residents why we did it, but it was not received very well.
Okay. The only other thing I want to say is that a statement was made this evening that scared me, and that was that the potential of looking for the big ticket, large box stores in our town. And I go back to what I've said for the last 3 years every time I've come before this board, and that is, please do not change the character of our town. It is why I moved here. It is why I chose to raise my children here. And it is what I love about this community. We are a tight-knit group of people that chose to live here because we did not want to live next to West Town Mall. And we did not want to live in the midst of all of those big box places. And I would also state that if you're going to move forward, please start looking at how you can improve upon traffic flow. I mean, you're looking at all of these things, and we have major traffic issues, backups every day, and yet that's not been an issue. So as a resident, those are the things that I'm concerned about. And as far as the approval of the FBA as an individual, I am against it. So.
This speaker is Robert Hill.
Robert who? What's his last name? Oh, Bob Hill.
My name is Robert Hill. I live at 11504 Mountain View Road, Farragut, Tennessee, United States of America. And I'm here to exercise my right as a citizen of the town of Farragut to say that I don't like what I see here with the FBA. The town of Farragut was created by a group of people, one of whom was the mayor. And it was created to give the people who lived in the area at the time, which was about 2,500 people, some voice in how the county did business and ran roughshod over us as residents out here with regard to zoning. That was one of the prime issues in that. I'm proud to say that the town has been very successful, in my opinion. I've served the town, well, I served this district as a county commissioner for 10 years, and I served the town from 1982 to 2010 as chairman, as a member, and later chairman of the Planning Commission. What I noticed during those years is that people in Farragut like to know what's going on a daily basis. They feel the pulse of the town, the community. We're now a lot bigger community than we used to be. We're about 24,000 people now, I guess. But this town was based on the use of the talent in the town as volunteers to to provide persons for town committees in specialties. We have a committee for a number of committees which are on the town website, which show an understanding of the breadth of interest here. We have an unusually talented town. I don't know the number of PhDs in the town. I'm not one. But we have a lot of intellect here. We also have a lot of energy. And that's really important to the town. Now, in this case, there is a committee in the town. Mr. Phil Dangle chairs it right now. It's the Economic Development Committee. And I think that what the Board of Mayor and Aldermen ought to do right now is what Mr. Purvis suggested a while ago. Just terminate this discussion immediately and turn over the issue to the board, the Economic Development Committee, and let them bring in the people who will work free for you, like David, who was just up here, Freeman. They will do things for the town that you don't get hired hands to do. You've got the structure already to do what's needed to be done. And I urge you to vote this down tonight, and let's just go back to the method of town operation and use our volunteers and use our intellect in town here to do the things that the FBA would like to do for us. The first time I heard about this, I came to the Economic Development Committee and the FBA was making a presentation. And I said, wait, there's somebody missing from the table. The person is here tonight, Betty Cisco. She's the executive director of the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce. We already have a Chamber of Commerce, and we already have an organization that's doing a good job for the town. We started that organization with seed money. They've since been able to create an organization that's self-financing. They have a large number of mixers, which are available for anybody to go to. And we need to use the resources we have. We don't need another resource to do this. I think the business people in this town, if they're interested in their business, they will do what's necessary to increase their sales, and that'll put money in their pocket, and it'll put our situs collection of sales tax in our pocket as a town. The business of town improvements, if you looked at the town in 1980 when it was started and look at it now, is vastly different. If you look at the capital improvement programs that we've done year by year, there was a steady progress of improving roads, improving the main roads, the roads that we travel on mostly. We don't have enough capacity now, but we can't deal with people who buy cars all the time and drive fast. But we have that problem, but we have done a lot with the town with no tax money at all. Just the money that comes in from sales tax in our whole income tax section, a little money on building permits, which cost about 2/3 more than we collect for. But we have a town that's made vast improvements here with no tax. People don't believe that when they ask me that. Well, I said it's true. And people who move here like that. It's not New York. If you had my house in New York, I wouldn't be able to pay for it. So anyway, the time to deal with this is now, and let's just stop this negotiation with FBA and go back to our town structure and make it work better for us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Our next speaker is Mike Mitchell.
Good evening. I'm Mike Mitchell. I live on Brixworth Boulevard, 716. I think of the Rotarians when I see a situation like this. They have a four-way test. I think it's something that is important to hear. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? It might surprise some people to know I support the FBA version 1.0 enthusiastically. I have some coupons in my wallet that I use. I used one of them last night at David's store. I like the FBA. I like the events. I like what they've done. I liked everything until the survey on the Smith Road apartments and their advocacy. And I thought that was a mistake. I thought it was negative PR, and it hurt them, and it hurt the community. So it wasn't beneficial to all concerned. I listened to David Freeman, and he said something that I've been thinking a lot about. I asked people about the new motto, and half of them say it backwards. I think that's a problem. I would have much rather seen something like along the theme of See Rock City, but I would change it to Visit Beautiful Farragut. I'd see that on those barns on the interstate, both interstates coming into town. I think that's a better theme. I would rather get the 700,000 people who live around us and bring them here than I would to build the population of the town with high volume apartments. That's really where this issue happened. It happened with an unfortunate bit of advocacy. And my problem with the advocacy is, as a 501c6, if they were funded by their members, I wouldn't care what they did. But when they take the money that's tax money that could go to roads or parks or schools, I feel that that's a conflict. I also feel that we have two members of the FBA that have already voted for the MOU, and I do feel like in civics class that they should recuse, that there's a conflict. I really think that the entire issue here is how do we handle the advocacy problem? Now, Alderman Pinchuk has put forward a proposal, and so has Vice Mayor LaMarche, and I think that there's some ideas. And I'll be honest with you, for 3.5 weeks I've been lobbying without much success for a compromise. I felt, and I support the original FBA. I'd have been fine if they got $50,000. I thought it was fair. The town asked them to take on the red, white, and blues, which wasn't in their original MOU, and they went in the hole. So I could see $50,000 as being fair, making them whole. And I felt the other $150,000 should be put out on bid, just like when Bud McKelvey in Public Works needs a tractor, he's got to bid it. And I'd like that bid to go all through the South. I'd like to get the best economic development consulting firm, and I'd like them to compete with other firms. I'd feel better if it was bid, but I don't want the FBA to go away. I appreciate what they do. I'm an active customer. I buy more lobster when Phil has the 20% off coupon, you know, and when he doesn't, I buy more shrimp. So, I mean, I like these folks, and we've tangled and we've fussed, and I feel bad about that. But the thing is, I learned more in the Economic Development Committee than I learned anywhere. And I please don't take this as a criticism, but the city of Knoxville does so much better when they have something like this about getting it on the website where the residents can see it. I've been looking for it, and if you just got it there Friday, well, I mean, it's just not enough time. I saw more information because I borrowed the file that Bob Hill had. I really didn't know the specifics. To me, this whole thing has been too fast for the residents. There are 24,000 residents. I don't feel that they're involved. And of course, my big problem was basically our franchises voters. I felt that this idea put kind of a barrier between myself and the people I vote for. I don't have a vote for the FBA board. And I mean, I support the FBA in its original format, and I think it should continue. We've got 2 new proposals to consider. I think that some type of compromise needs to be made. And I just feel in my heart, I don't think if I'd kicked up a fuss that there'd be this many people here. I don't think the residents were involved the way they should be on such an expensive item. And I just think it would be better for the community if it were bid, but I don't want to see the FBA go away. I think that they're important, and I appreciate the work they do, and I appreciate you.
Our next speaker is Brent Watts.
My name is Brent Watts. I live at 11625 Georgetown Drive in Village Green, and I am here representing the neighborhood of Village Green as I am the president of the Homeowners Association. And the first thing that I want to say is, as president of the Village Green Homeowners Association, we are flat out against the FBA. The reason I say that is I attended the meeting Tuesday morning, and the behavior exhibited by Mr. Purvis towards both Christy Halsey and Mr. Mitchell without bullying, it was inappropriate. I know there were other people there, but that's why I'm here today. I don't yell at people. I just kind of throw it out there. I have an opinion. And the big opinion I have here, when I look to invest $600,000, and I am a small business owner here in Farragut, I want to know, what do I get for my money? When I buy advertising 2 ways. One is sponsorship, public awareness. Hey, I'll give you $1,500 to support your cause. No ROI. It's $1,500. It's a sponsorship. If I'm going to write you $600,000, what am I going to get in return? Am I buying national television ads? I'm going to be selling all over the country because I've sold all over the country. That's fine. What's wrong with a budget surplus? I mean, is it generational? Is it a guy that was born in 1979, loves it, and anybody previous to that thinks deficit's the way to go? With America's $19 trillion deficit, money can sit in the bank. It's not a big deal. We're doing it at Village Green. And we're getting ready to redo our amenities and facilities. And we are trying to find ways to do it without raising dues, etc. So, as the elephant in the room, representing 462 houses and roughly 600 acres in the middle of this town, and one of the zones that the FBA is wanting to work on, which is the Village Green Shopping Center, which, while is not technically a part of the neighborhood, it bears our name. okay? And we have roughly 1,000 voters in the neighborhood. And we are prepared to do what we need to do to drum up support to make sure that if this is voted on tonight, which maybe it is a good idea, we just haven't had time, okay? You could convince me, give me more info. But just throw it out there. Let us make our own decision, okay? Don't try and shove it down our throats as quick as possible. Because when you have a neighborhood that has 1,000 votes, and you guys are elected in general elections where 1,300 ballots are cast, I think we have some influence there. I mean, I think we do. And I'm willing to listen to anybody, anytime. And it's just listen. Because when we're talking about this stuff, I'm a very soft-spoken guy. And I want to know what you have to say. Okay? And if you think spending $600,000 just because you have a budget surplus on redundant services that are already done by our chamber, that you couldn't advertise my business better than me no matter how hard you tried or how much money you spent, that's your choice. But don't expect me to keep my business here in Farragut when you make decisions like that. So obviously, I've said it, as a neighborhood, we are against this currently. If you delay the vote, you might be able to change my mind, change the neighborhood's mind. But right now, we're against it, and that's where we stand. So I'd also like to meet with any other HOA president that would like to meet and work together. So I said my address at the beginning, so you can come over anytime.
It's Tim Williams.
Good evening. I'm Tim Williams here on behalf of the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce. And just to clarify a couple of points that people maybe don't realize, the chamber, when it started, we had just a handful of members, and a few people are sitting here that were in existence back then when it began. The chamber's grown to over 750 members. You know, it came up in the paper yesterday, and a lot of comments that weren't accurate to a lot of people and a lot of issues. But one, so that everybody understands, the town in 2004 started a grant process, and they offered grants through the community, and this was to schools, and some people don't realize or remember. They offered grants to schools. They gave, if I remember correctly, $5,000, maybe $10,000 to each school in the Farragut town limits. Well, it evolved into more than that. It did evolve into more than that. But they offered grants to several entities besides schools, and one of them was the Chamber of Commerce. And from Mr. Markley's point of measurement, what that's evolved to in 2012, right, David? 2012, the town asked that we come up with a contractual agreement to show some of the services that the chamber was actually doing for the town. And this included marketing and things like that, different lists of things. But that's to the tune of $15,000 a year. Now, for these people, their budget, they've got to have money. We have to have money because we've got a budget of over $300,000 for the Chamber of Commerce. $15,000, sure, we'd like to have more, but the point of that is they need more too. But how much more and what they do for it, that's what they're here for, and I'm not here for that. But what I would ask the town on our behalf is we're still going to exist. We've got a role, and we've had a role for a long time in this area, in the town, in the region, and my hopes are that we continue with that relationship with the town because we're going to be around. We're going to be around because we've supported the businesses, we've supported the town, we support the people here, and the people here have depended on each other. And we've all been very blessed in this last 6 or 8 years of time that we've had economically, globally, but we've all been blessed to have each other and have all the entities that we have to fall back on. So I'd ask the town, to keep us in mind as it goes. This is a big amount of money, but they do need money. They can't operate on the events they've done. There's nobody in this room I don't think, that would tell you their events have been unsuccessful. And they've been successful for the residents, and they've been successful for all the attendees, and they'll continue that. They'll continue because they've done so well. And I think that's one thing they've done to take away from businesses that's targeted the residents of Village Green, Fox Den, the whole area, because people come from out of the county to attend some of these events. And they need money to do that. There's no doubt about it. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Nels.
I'm Cheryl Nels at 221 Smith Road. And most everyone has already said a lot of my thoughts that I've been having over the past couple of weeks, and I jotted down a few things as I was listening to at the workshop. And I was president of the 4-H Volunteer Leaders Organization until my daughter has actually taken over that. And we had an issue with having to make cuts and look outside of how we normally get our funding. We're not supported by any state money, but we want to support the 4-H program. And those are kids, and the program is very beneficial to those kids. So what did we do? We asked ourselves questions. We looked at our budget, we made some cuts. Looking at that, we saw that maybe down the road we could build up some funding. So this is addressed towards the FBA. And one of the things we looked at was within our alumni. And we just got this letter and we asked our alumni to support our 4-H program because they had benefited as they had gone through the 4-H program and had become adult leaders and leaders of our country. And in return, they sent money, and it was a lot for us. We were like, wow, this really worked. My question is, have the FBA, have you asked the businesses to help? What type of money do you generate from them? I have a small business, but I don't recall anything coming and saying, to be a part of this and to help our community, could you have a membership fee? Is that one way to generate income for your services? Another one is I have worked with Picnic on the Pike and Go in the Glow, and those were great community activities that I believe were done through the town itself. And so speaking to like what Mr. Hill said, I had also written down, why not, again, ask the community. Ask this group who's got such great ideas, the retirees, the volunteers. Again, speaking to our 4-H program, our community service, we are so apt to taking someone's brochure and putting it at the Farragut Library and having information given out, and I could just see how you could tap into what's already here that doesn't cost the additional special events coordinator, $18,000, a $10,000 contractor. So that's already $28,000 that I see could possibly be cut by just asking for more tapping in volunteers and retirees. How about having a mayor's night out like Tim Burchett does? Things like that that promote businesses. Anyway, these are just some ideas that I came up with, and I'm not here to have any kind of attack, because I do think I see what your program, what the desire is, your passion is, and I know you've put a lot of work into the different groups that have done it, but I think there's another way to do it than the money from the town of Farragut right now. And one thing I would say, let's also look at the need for a civic center. When the kids are out of school and they need a place to go, there's some other, I think, good opportunities that we might look for that, some of that extra, if you will, income that we have could go to. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Brigham Thomas.
Hi, Brigham Thomas, 11731 Weather Vane Drive, 37934. I'm here to ask you to please not approve the proposed memorandum of understanding between the town of Farragut and the Farragut Business Alliance. Although this is labeled an MOU, it has all the attributes of a purchase by the town of Farragut. You're contracting for services with an entity to perform activities to be paid by the town over a specific time period. And we even heard from David Smoke in the introduction during the workshop where he said in the contract you have before you, and he described a scope of work. As a reminder, the Farragut Municipal Code requires competitive bidding of purchase for all goods and services exceeding $10,000. We heard from David Purvis in the workshop describing past activities of the Business Alliance and proposed future activities. Indeed, the past activities do support the purpose of a 501c6 organization, which according to the IRS of 501c6, the activities must be directed to the improvement of business conditions of one or more lines of business, as distinguished from the performance of particular services. The purpose of a 501c6 must not be to engage in a regular business of a kind ordinarily carried out for profit, even if the business is operated on a cooperative basis, such as a memorandum of understanding. In the MOU text, there are actions to produce and provide Farragut branded merchandise and an action to develop, market, and regionally distribute collateral and digital materials. These are activities that are routinely provided by for-profit businesses. So in conclusion, I want to say again, I'm asking you not to approve the proposed MOU. Executing the MOU with the Farragut Business Alliance would constitute a code violation by the town of Farragut, and executing the proposed MOU with the town of Farragut would be an improper activity by the Farragut Business Alliance that would clearly jeopardize their 501c6 status. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Wilson.
Good evening, Michael Wilson, 333 Bernie Circle, Farragut, Tennessee. And for the last 2 hours or so, I've been trying to figure out how to put 4 letters into this conversation, my favorite 4, the CLUP, but I just can't find a way to do it. So I know it's been a long night and a lot of discussion. And really, when I came in here tonight, I came to listen. I really didn't come to speak, but I really wanted to address a couple of things. One was Vice Mayor LaMarche's comment about the amount of money seems to be a concern. And Alderman Pinchuk obviously brought up some alternatives for that. And as much as it's about $600,000, I just want to lay this out, and many people have put this on, and I'm not saying that there's any ill will here, but essentially, in all of my time sitting in these meetings, I've watched Bud come in, as Mike Mitchell said. We bought a $4,500 lawnmower to mow the ball fields and probably some of the green spaces around the town, etc., and he bid that project out. I remember when he came in and he had 3 bids for different dump trucks for this terrible winter season we've had and all the snow and ice that we were going to have to deal with. He had 3 bids for that. I think they range between $80,000 and $100,000, if my memory serves me correct, maybe a little bit more than $100,000. So he bid that process out. And here we have a 3-year contract, and it is a contract, for $600,000 that didn't go through a bidding process with the town. Now, I'm not saying that that's the right way to do business, because I don't think that it is. And the federal government, if you were to do this and say, we have one source that we want to draw this from. We have this one particular source that's the expert we need this from. In the federal government, you would need what's called a sole source justification. I don't see that here. I think that you have a great statement of work. I think it's valid work that needs to be done to build up the town of Farragut. I like some of the other alternatives that have been thrown out there. I have a hard time understanding why this town wants to give $600,000 to an organization that the Farragut Press, Ms. Tammy Cheek, reported back on December 24th that lost $18,000 between December of 2014 and November of 2015. If this is the right organization and if this is the right way to do it, I have no problem with them submitting a bid with 10 other organizations or 5 other organizations. And in this town, the Economic Development Commission, or the appropriate body, this body, looking at all of those bids, finding the best one, and determining $200,000 is the cost for this work, and it's not $150 or it's not $175. But I don't think that we know that, short of what was brought up. And my understanding is this organization did some kind of bid a year and a half ago during this process, and that's what was used. The other thing that I want to mention briefly, I'm a goals guy. I teach goals in the organization I work with. And when you want to have a good goal, it's a SMART goal, and some of you may be familiar with that term. SMART goal means that it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant or realistic, and it's time constrained or timely. I would ask you to look at the goals in the statement of work and tell me if any of them meet those standards of being a SMART goal. I don't think they do. I think you have a lot of measures in the back, but I think the goals are flawed, and that needs to be reconsidered if you're going to go forward. So I'm going to go back to what I talked about 2 weeks ago in front of this body on that rezoning issue. There seems to be a need for sales tax dollars in this town. And I think you have a lot of citizens that are concerned of what's happening with the character of this town to get those sales tax dollars and to build up Kingston Pike and all these other areas to look like Cedar Bluff or somewhere else. That's where we'll be in 20 years. And I think that's the dichotomy of opinions in this room. And so one of the things that I want to put out there, and Cheryl Nails brought it up quite succinctly, talk to the residents of this town. Talk to the homeowners. So in that vein and in the vein of cooperation, I will put out that every first Friday of the month, Baldwin Park HOA, we get together, we have a little shindig, we drink a little wine, we have a beer or two, maybe a few other things, and we have a lot of good food. So I invite our North Ward aldermen, Alderman Pulvin and Alderman Markley, on separate occasions. The offer is extended. You can contact me or you can contact our HOA. You are invited to come out and hear what the residents of Baldwin Park have to say on this and other issues in the town. And I think that's a big piece that's missing. A lot of this has been the town hasn't come into this room and talked these issues. We elected you, and we'd like you to come out and meet with us and have a beer and not be in this contentious situation. But let's really hear what you have to say, hear what we have to say, and let's build this community together. And so I extend that, and I would hope that the other HOAs here that are in the room, those that aren't in the room that might be on TV or watching this somewhere else, I encourage you, invite your representatives to your meetings. Let's sit down, have a beer, have a glass of wine, talk these issues over, and really come up with what's best. And so for all of those reasons, I would ask, again, I agree with Mike. I think Farragut Business Alliance, I want to state this, is doing great work in the things they provide for the town. I would encourage that compromise of giving them $50,000, $75,000, however that's been done in the past, to continue those efforts. But I think you really need to go back and look at the proposal and get more bids on this and make sure that we're spending the right amount of money for the product we're getting. And if they win that bid in a competitive process, I will stand up here and gladly support that. Thank you.
Our last speaker that is signed up is Phil Dangle.
Was it something I said? Phil Dangle, 725 Andover Boulevard, Knoxville, Tennessee, United States of America, along with my friend over there. I also took 8th grade civics. And I learned in 8th grade civics, if you say things about people that aren't true, they should be allowed to defend themselves. I have never eaten dinner at any of their houses. None of them have eaten dinner at my house. I've never eaten dinner at any of their houses. They have never eaten dinner at my house. I am not their crony. I am not his crony, her crony, his crony or their crony. I have never received favoritism at the shrimp dock for anything. In fact, getting an allowance to open was a major pain in the ass. Okay? I was put through torture. I have the fire inspector come in all the time and write me up. I have the health inspector also come to visit me. So to accuse me or any of us of cronyism just is not right. Now, Mr. Mitchell gave a great speech. I really appreciate what he had to say about my place. However, in writing, what he said was, the FBA is the same group that lobbied for the Smith Road. Lobbied for the Smith Road apartments. I attended every one of those meetings. No one from the Farragut Business Alliance got up and spoke and lobbied. They merely stated a fact that they had sent out a survey and what the results of the survey were. Now, there is no more devout New England Patriots fan in the United States than I am. And my team lost. I have moved on. It took me 2 weeks. You haven't moved on from Smith Road, and it's taken how many? I don't even understand why we're talking about Smith Road. First of all, the mayor voted against it. Second of all, Louise voted against it. So the two people that are on the committee voted it down. Why are we still talking about it? Okay, Mr. Purvis. Mr. Purvis and I started the Farragut Business Alliance together because we were very disturbed with the sign ordinance in this town. That's solely how it started. We felt we needed to put signs out to promote our business. And as we did it, the cronies in the town came around and took our signs up and threw them in the trash bin every week. That crony of Sue Stool, Mike, who comes over my house all the time, and the other cronies over here, they came by and cost me hundreds of dollars by ripping up and taking my signs off the street. So Mr. Purvis and I were very upset by that because we felt we wanted to promote our business. So we started an alliance. Okay. I have never seen one person in this audience at a Farragut Business Alliance meeting until this week. I would like anyone in this audience to raise their hand if they have stayed after an event and picked up trash. Have you? Have you? Have you? Have you? Have you? I don't see a lot of hands over there. Miss Cisco has. So the concept, and we have begged for volunteers. The concept of volunteers is just, you are delusional on that fact. The volunteers aren't there. We ask for volunteers all the time. Nothing would make us happier than to have volunteers come and help us at these events. The part that really has me concerned and upset is that we are criticizing some of the people who put in 50, 60, 100, 125 hours of their own time at no pay, with no agenda, to help the town of Farragut. And I watched this gentleman, I don't know your name, sir. Yeah. Harry, go like this to him, okay? Lecturing him. We're pointing at him. That's very unfair, sir. It's very unfair. Because Mr. Purvis, who, again, has never been in my home, okay, and have never been in his home, have never spent a lot of time, gone to a ball game with him, is just, he's donating his time. He's trying to do something good for the town, and we are, you guys, we are pointing at him as if he is some kind of a villain. I don't get it. I'm sorry. This is not about the money. This is about the way we now treat people. The Farragut Business Alliance and the Economic Development Committee, whether you want to accept this as the truth or not, were afraid to stand up and talk at the Smith Apartments conversation. Again, back to 8th grade, because in the 8th grade civics courses that I took, and by the way, I've lived in Farragut for 23 years. My children were educated in Farragut. I own a business in Farragut. I pay taxes in Farragut. In the 8th grade civics classes that I took, people were allowed to give their opinion. So when the committee or alliance voted, it came back to us that people wanted our names and our addresses so that they could boycott our businesses. Wow, think about that. Boycott our businesses without the people even knowing how anyone on that alliance voted, because nobody in this room came to a meeting. So how about the fact that if people boycotted Mr. Purvis's business, and Mr. Purvis had voted against the Smith Apartments, nobody would have known that, and his business would have suffered. So I really don't care if my vote is not take $1 from the town. Not $1. I'm going to vote no on anything above 75 cents. Because if this is the way everyone feels about the alliance, I think the alliance should go away. I think on the night of the 3rd of July, everyone should go be happy. And as for the Taste of Farragut, the shrimp dock won't be part of the Taste of Farragut. Okay? I am just astounded by the reaction towards people that are devoting their time and to help out here. So, again, I just want to make sure that I attended a meeting where, as they went around the room and the mayor voted, when his vote was given, people in the room absolutely booed and absolutely accused him of being on the take, or of being on the take. Wow. Wow. I mean, I hardly know Ralph McGill, but I promise you he's not on the take. I promise you that some of these things that the finger pointing has got to stop. And I just want to assure you that that we did not lobby for anything, that we are not invisible. We meet, the Economic Development Committee meeting meets every first Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not even going to ask where most of you are at 8 o'clock in the morning. However, you're all welcome to come. We will be meeting March 7th, I believe, March 4th. Okay. The Farragut Business Alliance, the next meeting is third Thursday of every month at 8:30 in the morning. Come on. Let's go. Let's show up. Let's be there. We're there. And it isn't helping my business to be there. And it isn't helping David's business to be there. And it isn't helping all these people in their business to be there. So when next time you want to point your finger, sir, okay, think about it. That's all I'm asking. Think about it. Thank you.
I have something I have to say. I have a written statement I've spent the better part of this week underneath a bus on my back, and so I had a lot of time to think, and I have a few things I'd like to say. First, I wish to apologize to Allison Sousa, the FBA Executive Director. During the Smith Road rezoning request, she was put in a bad position when we, the FBA board, asked her to speak on the business community's behalf. She has taken the brunt of the criticism unfairly. Allison does not act on her own accord. She takes her direction from the FBA board, and I personally apologize to Allison for the role I played in putting her in a bad situation. Second, I wish to apologize to the residents. While I believe the business community should be able to provide their perspective on issues before the MPC and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, it would have been sufficient to let the survey responses stand on their own and not provide any additional commentary. It was an emotional issue. It got personal. It was difficult not to have hurt feelings on all sides. We as a community need to let go of the anger and heal. It is difficult, moving on, it is difficult to read an article where your name is mentioned, but all the information around it is foreign and describes you in a negative and nasty light. The scorched earth policy of the writer didn't end there. He insulted our town administrator, the FBA executive director, the FBA president, the entire FBA board, and the mayor. At least I stand in good company. There is one aspect of each of us that we take through life, and that is our reputation. Mr. Mitchell demonstrated little regard in destroying mine, as well as so many others, and it's disturbing. There have been so many lies and misrepresentations, it would be too time-consuming to address them all, so I will stick to the ones pertinent to me. With regard to the FBA meeting where we voted on the MOU, I did, in fact, recuse myself from that vote. It is reflected in the minutes. With regard to the accusations that, 1, I cannot serve two masters, 2, either I represent the people of Farragut or I don't, and 3, that it is clear my alliance is to the Farragut Business Alliance, not the residents of Farragut, Mr. Mitchell, you are outright stating a knowable falsehood. I have sat on the Municipal Planning Commission for 2.5 years. The minutes reflect all votes in which I have participated, and you can view the meetings on the town's YouTube channel. So all the decisions I'm about to lay out are easily verifiable. In regard to the Smith Road rezoning request, I voted no and sided with the residents. In fact, I prepared a statement, read that statement into the record, which outlined my reasoning based on the comprehensive land use plan. By the way, I was serving as a board member for the FBA at that time. When the Sweetbriar residents came to the MPC to argue against the rezoning of a property in Turkey Creek that backs up to their neighborhood from office to commercial, I voted with the residents to deny that rezoning. Recently, the Swan property was up for rezoning. I resisted the rezoning of the entirety property to commercial because doing so would not protect the existing rural residential nature of Union Road. Although some people don't like the land use that has been designated on Union Road, the residents of Fox Run, those who were for the rezoning and those against the rezoning, were all thrilled with the outcome and find an open space park far more preferable to condos or senior living facility. Oh, and one final small decision. A few years back, a company requested a change to our sign ordinance in regard to office buildings. They wanted to put a sign on their building, but the 2 allowable signs on the front of the building were already taken. They requested that we permit signs to be placed on sides of the buildings. I voted no on this request. My thought was that it would clutter the appearance, and sign clutter is a big deal here in Farragut. Not too business friendly, I would say. In my mind, what is good for Farragut is not always business friendly. I use 2 sources when making my decisions at the Planning Commission level and at the BOMA level. The first is the book Full Speed Ahead, The History of the Founding of Farragut. And the second is the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, which was developed with town citizens. I am not interested in changing Farragut. I am interested in seeing it to continue to thrive. I strongly support the idea of the protection of existing residential neighborhoods. It is a principle upon which this town was founded and a principle clearly expressed in the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The fact that I am a small business owner and a board member of the FBA does not alter my thinking regarding this issue. The residential aspect of our town is at the forefront when I consider issues. Finally, you've written off the entire FBA board as volunteers incapable of implementing any aspect of economic development. I joined the FBA board to give a voice from a small business perspective and to find a way to assist new
businesses coming into town. See, I graduated from the School of Hard Knocks with a major in what not to do on the way to receiving your CO. I am using my experiences and helping other small businesses during their build-out and grand opening to help smooth that road as much as possible. I have the passion and the desire to do this, and I have a good working relationship with Mark Shipley and Ashley Miller. Do I have a lot to learn? Yes, but I can help. If that's the kind of economic development that encourages other small businesses to come to town and fill up those empty storefronts on Kingston Pike, then I'll pursue it whether you deem me equipped or not. That's all I've got.
So, does anybody else want to speak? Are we taking a vote then?
I, for one, am very much in favor of maintaining the FBA. And it's a question, I think, of apparently the money. And we have two different budgets that have been submitted to us. And so I think we need to look at those two budgets. And if we consider the larger budget, as I mentioned earlier, maybe we leave the staff, up to the staff to review those bills or those expenses that need to be paid and pay it through the town instead of through the FBA.
Well, are you wanting modifications before we vote, or what?
I would think a modification is in order, yes.
So,
I guess, first of all, there's two questions. One, do we want to leave the budget as it is, the $200,000? $140,000 of that is the portion that the town would maintain and spend for the services that the FBA implements specifically towards advertising and branding. Or do we go with the lower budget of, was it 60,000, David?
The secondary budget, Alderman, was 75,000, and that's to basically continue the FBA the way it is today, and no changes, to that. I think the other one, certainly you could take out the 140,000. That's a line item for advertising and PR. And frankly, if you took that out and wanted the town to do it, we don't know what that cost would be, because we would need to go do an RFP and go through that whole process. So it could be less, could be more, don't know. But certainly wouldn't be part of their contract anymore. So if that cost, but still wanting them to help us with those responsibilities, would lower that down to $45,000.
I'd like to hear other members of the board's thoughts on which way they would want to go with those two options.
Well, I'd be happy to share my thoughts, but it's not on either of those two options. I think, like most of the people in this room, while the FBA has been working diligently on this for well over a year, and the Economic Development Committee has worked on it, I learned that the Economic Development Committee had voted to approve it from the front page of the Farragut Press. I haven't seen a report from the Farragut Economic Development Committee, and like everybody in this room, this represents a major policy shift for the town, a very aggressive marketing posture. I don't say that's bad or good. I just say I'm not comfortable with it yet. It's a big deal, and I don't think that there's a lot here to assimilate, and I haven't had enough time. I'm not prepared to vote on this. I think what I hear is that most of the people in town don't feel like they're ready to see this go through. And I'd like to propose that we table this until we can have an opportunity to further discuss it and get some buy-in from the town. So that's a motion.
I'll second that one.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
I'll abstain.
So we're sending it back to staff, right?
Correct.
All right.
Mayor, if we could have Tom address something real quick. I think it's important that we there's been some questions about the legality of various aspects of really affects not only the FBA, but the chamber and other entities that we give money to. So I think it's important that Tom just address that before everybody starts getting out of here real quick.
Yeah, let me take just a moment. I don't usually get to talk very much in these things, but when people start talking about legal issues and giving their legal opinion about what things are, you need to understand that we don't just sit around and let things get proposed that are not lawful. We have researched the issue of whether or not what is this contract that is being proposed is compliant with state law as far as bidding and advertising for bids is concerned. There's a specific provision in the Tennessee Code Annotated that governs the purchasing by municipalities, and there's a specific exclusion that provision doesn't apply to this kind of a contract that we're working on. So we've looked at that just so everybody understands. That law is not applicable to this, and if you think about it, it makes sense. Many municipalities have chambers of commerce that they ask to do the very kinds of things that's being discussed here. Knoxville has two, actually. They've got Visit, and they have the Greater Knoxville Partnership, I think it's called. But, you know, they don't advertise and bid those out. They're entities that are in existence for the purpose of doing exactly what they're doing. They're not-for-profit 501c6s. It's very specifically covers Chamber of Commerce's. So that is not an issue with this contract. And understand, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to make clear that the issue that we're talking about does not violate state law if it gets approved. Secondly, this business about conflict of interest. This is what I do for a living, and I've done it for 37 years now. There is no conflict of interest involved in the mayor and Ms. Pavlin considering this issue. The law in this state is very clear. The Attorney General agrees with me that it is not a conflict of interest. The mayor has no financial interest, direct or indirect, in the outcome of the vote. Neither does Ms. Pavlin. There is no conflict between the interest of the town and the FBA. The town has a financial model, an economic model, that is unique among all governments in the state of Tennessee. We don't have a property tax. We have 24,000 residents, and we don't have a property tax. And we provide a lot of services. The only way, we get the majority of our revenue is by increasing sales tax revenues. If we don't do something to maintain some pressure to keep those sales tax revenues up, then we know where that's going to possibly lead. Nobody wants it to go there. When you have a model like that, what you've got is the businesses in the town and the town's interests are aligned within reason. That doesn't mean that we turn every lot that's vacant in the town into a big box. We've got all kinds of complaints of people up and down Kingston Pike because we have these vacant businesses, these strip centers. The idea is to fill the limited areas in this town that we devote to commercial activities so they can be more productive. Thankfully, somebody had the foresight to annex what is now Parkside Drive. If that hadn't happened by the people we've all now forgotten, we would be in a world of hurt, because that's where we get most of our sales tax revenues, or a lot of them. But when you increase the number of residents you have and the level of services increases that you need to provide, you've got to come up with other ways to generate revenue. It's not the fact that we want to increase the sales tax revenue is not a bad thing. It's exactly what the town needs to do within limits. You might disagree about how it's being done or what's being proposed, and that's very appropriate for everybody to come out and talk about. But let's don't raise issues that are non-issues. Let's talk about the merits of the proposal. Let's don't accuse people of being bad people because you might disagree with their view. And that's all I wanted to say. We're completely legal. Everything's fine. Let's have a nice debate and reach a decision. And be nice to one another.
Thank you, Tom, for clarifying that. I'd just like to take a minute and I want to thank everybody for coming out. I think this is exactly what this needs, a public airing. Everybody needs to know what we're thinking about, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do for the town. I heard some people object to the idea of having an RV dealer in town. Well, we got Buddy Gregg out there, and I don't think that's a bad thing. We've got, folks, we got the I-40 corridor running right through town. We've got the Outlets Drive, a whole section of town up there. I don't think we're going to build fine custom homes along that strip. That's commercial development territory, and I would love to see Lowe's or Home Depot where I don't have to drive and take that money someplace else and spend those tax dollars in our town and be able to get things, goods and services that we need here. That's why we have a comprehensive land use plan, is to figure out where to put the stuff that we need to maintain our parks and our roads and the things that we love about Farragut. We've got 9 miles of undeveloped roads in town, or that are deemed to be substandard, where people can't build homes, they can't subdivide their property until those are improved, and we need to find ways to do that. So I am very much opposed to increasing the size of government, but I think that if we can make our retail services so desirable to the surrounding communities that they come here and spend their money, and we reap the benefit of that, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for everybody. Like you, I think this is it's a major shift, the proposal from Farragut Business Alliance. We need some time to digest that and think about it and work on our goals. This board is having a visioning meeting, a retreat here in a couple of weeks, where we sit down and go over all this stuff. And believe me, what y'all have said here today it's stuck in my mind. I hear you, and we all hear you, and we're working for the best interest of this town. Nobody here is getting paid, and nobody's ever offered me any money. I hear about bribes and corruption and stuff like that. Nobody's ever offered me any. So anyway, just so you know, and I wouldn't take it if they did. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. This is what it's all about. Thanks for coming out and participating.
Do you have anything to say?
The only thing I have to say is you need to stick around because you need to take a picture before we get out of here. So please make sure you don't go anywhere after the meeting.
Put all of your
That's all I
stuff
got.
in your seats so we can clear the
I was waiting for the town administrator's report.
That's it.
All right.
Hear my report.
That's what I said. I said because the people didn't want the 600,000.
Hey, Rich, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you